Hello, my name is Barbara Leland and I'm a certified holistic health coach in Huntington Beach, and I do the healthy eating classes for Hoag Cancer Center. So welcome to January, and a lot of changes this year from last January. And with changes, we like to talk about things that we're going to do for the new year. So today, what we're going to talk about is how we can take those bad habits and replace them with good. So let's talk about a change in habit for 2021. Okay? So, what are habits? Habits basically are things that we perform on a regular basis. We're really on autopilot when we're performing these habits. And things that we do is like we wash our face, we don't think about it, brush our teeth, make coffee, we drive to work or not. But when we're driving, we put our foot on the gas, we put our foot on the brake, we don't think about doing that. We're on autopilot. That being on autopilot frees up our mind for other situations where we may have to make decisions and deal with problems, etc. But those things are habits. And when we have habits, we have good habits and we have bad habits. But our brain doesn't discriminate between good and bad habits. It just sees habits. There's no judgment. It's a good habit, a bad habit. The brain doesn't know that. It's just a habit. So what we define as a good habit or a bad habit is a good habit is something we desire, and a bad habit is something we don't desire. That's really based on our perception of what's good and what's bad. So how do we get rid of those bad habits and replace them with good habits? The first step is we're going to make a list of the habits we want to replace and why. The why is important because we want to identify the habits that we're replacing, and the why is what we're going to get out of changing the habit. And every habit has three components. There's a trigger, there's the behavior, and there's the reward. And we usually focus on the behavior, what the habit is. But really, what we should be focusing on is the trigger and the reward, because these are the things that form the behavior. So triggers, certain environments, we might trigger negative habits. So this little girl is looking at the cookies, and that's going to trigger her desire to eat the cookies, which in her mind is not a bad habit. But maybe when we're a little bit older, we might see that as a bad habit. Maybe if we're trying to not use our phone quite as much, every time it dings, we pick up, because someone sends us a text, we pick up the phone. We turn on the TV because it's the first thing we look at when we sit on the couch. So we can also have positive triggers. We can put, instead of having the cookie on the counter, we can put apples on the counter. We can put our tennis shoes right next to the front door. So every time we see those tennis shoes, it's going to remind us, oh yeah, I want to go for a walk. Carry your water bottle with you all day long, and that can trigger the fact that you want to drink more water. So we can change our environment to change our trigger. So yeah, putting those positive triggers can help. And rewards to our behavior can be easy to identify, but sometimes they might need some detective work on our part. So this little girl eating the lollipop, well, that the excitement on her face is, first of all, her taste buds. What the reward is going to be what she gets on her taste buds. But also she's going to get that sugar rush. And same with the caffeine, the lady sitting at her desk almost sleeping, grabbing for that cup of coffee. The sugar and the caffeine both are stimulants. And if we're tired, we're going to think about having things that are going to stimulate us more. We talked about that in the sugar seminar that we did. Also, we can have good memories, and those good memories might be a reward. For example, we might remember baking with our moms, baking sweet treats, or with our children, making cookies. And just that in itself, the smell of the cookies in the kitchen can trigger good memories. But some are more complex, like depression. And we're depressed, we need comfort. We look for who hasn't had a session with a pint of Haagen-Dazs. I know I have. So, and rewards can be complicated also because a cookie is a lot of different rewards. We're going to get hunger, energy, taste, and comfort. But if we identify the reward that we're looking for, we can replace that reward or that cookie with a more healthy behavior. So if we want to break a habit, we have to come to grips with whatever reward we're getting from it. Even if we feel guilty for having that habit, we're not likely to stop it unless we come up with another way to deal with the reward. So something positive has to be put in its place. So again, the negative behavior, the undesired, has to be replaced with positive behavior, the desired, and that will give us the reward that we're looking for. So a positive reward can be pleasant. It can be like taking a walk at 3 o'clock instead of reaching for a cookie to overcome our, that afternoon slump that we have. But the walk is going to do you just the same amount of energizing as that cookie would. It would give you more energy than the cookie. But positive can also be painful, but important. So to get to the reason why this habit is so difficult to deal with, you may need to get some professional help for that, or talk to someone who can help you with it. But once we've figured out the reward, we can then avoid the triggers. So, for example, if we avoid somewhere that we normally do our old habit, like let's say every time you're trying to go plant-based, and every time you go to this one restaurant, you love the steak that they have. I would advise you that if you're trying to go plant-based, you don't go to that restaurant for a while until you can get that under control. When I quit smoking, years and years and 1,000 million years ago, I had to stop going dancing because at that time you could smoke in the bars, and that's where I would go dancing. And if I went dancing, I would have some alcohol and I would smoke. So I had to stop. I had to stop doing that. So you figure out the reward and then you avoid the triggers, because the triggers really are going to trip you up. And it's important that you focus on one thing at a time, one specific habit. Otherwise, it's going to be overwhelming. Then, when that habit has become autopilot, then you can add another habit. So when you wrote down your habits that you want to change, take that first one or any one on the list that you want to focus on and focus on that habit. And keep it simple so you can allow yourself to focus on the success. And remember that we're going to take small steps to make big changes. And rather than trying to do something amazing from the beginning, we can start small. I mean, every small step is amazing, but we may not see our entire goal in the very beginning. So, for example, you can change how we're eating. Maybe you're eating maybe 2 to 3 times a week, or 1 to 2 meals a day. Set a goal for yourself for when you'll increase it, and then do it. And write it down. Write down your promise. Committing it to paper makes that promise more real. Write out a goal, keep it handy, look at it every day, or as many times a day as you need. Put it someplace where you're going to be seeing it. Also, write down your plan, your specific plan. So, for example, if you want to quit having sugar, that's not really specific. Be specific. I'm only going to have sugar that I get from natural sources, or I'm not going to have any processed sugar at all, or I'm going to limit my added sugars to 9 grams a day, which is supposedly the maximum that we should be having per day, and we exceed that every day. Things like that. You want to be specific, If you say, I want to be healthy, well, what does that mean? Write down the step that you will take, the one step that you're going to take to get to that goal. And then we want to identify past obstacles. So when we've tried this habit before, we've tried to change this habit and we weren't successful perhaps, or maybe we were successful and now we have to change it again. In my case, the Christmas season kind of tripped me up on my sugar intake. So I have to revisit that habit changing situation. So identify your past obstacles. What tripped you up before? I know what did it for me. What kept you from your goal? And maybe you can foresee some new obstacles. So how are you going to overcome those obstacles? Write down your solution before you hit the obstacles, and then you're more prepared for when they do come. And again, be specific. So like I said, it's pretty vague to say I want to eat healthy. I will eat X number of fruits and vegetables per day, or I'll eat 3 plant-based meals a week. I'll walk, run, bike 5 days a week. Something like that. Be specific about what you want yourself to do so yourself will have the rules. And then put it on your calendar. Make it a plan. Put it on your calendar like an appointment. So we've already identified what we want to do, why, how we want to do it, and now it's time to implement it. If your goal is to exercise more, put it on the calendar with a specific time, date, and location. If it's to cut back on meat, write Meatless Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday on your calendar maybe with a new vegetarian recipe to try. You could even, if you're doing a digital calendar, you can even go to some of the meal planning websites or apps that are available, and you can put that recipe and the link to it, save it as you tell the app when you're going to make that recipe, and it'll remind you on your calendar, and the recipe link will be right there. So it's really easier and easier to keep ourselves on track. And then you want to have a backup plan. So life gets crazy, we all know it. We have great intentions and plans, and then we write it down and we put it on the calendar, and then something happens that throws us off track. So, okay, I'm going to ride my bike on Wednesday for 45 minutes, and then it rains on Wednesday. So then I think, okay, well, then if it's raining on Wednesday, I will do an indoor activity, or more likely I'll ride my bike on Thursday. But then Thursday comes around and, oh well, it's too cold today, so I'll ride my bike on Friday. Don't let your plan B become the plan, because you can screw yourself up that way. So what you might want to do is, if the plan gets blindsided because of the weather or whatever, still do whatever you want to do, but do it in a different way. So if it rains on Wednesday when I was going to ride my bike, okay, then I'll do one of the fabulous online aerobic classes that are so plentiful right now. So something like that. You make a plan B be a doable plan B, not a procrastination plan B. Okay, and that gives us more options for sticking to our goals. And then, again, we want to use this if things get crazy, not have it be our new normal. And be accountable. And working with another person or a group can help us stay on track. It could be someone that we share a goal with. It could be the same goal. So let's say you have a friend and both of you want to go walking 3 times a week. Then great, you can even walk together. Or you could tell each other, I'm going walking on Wednesday. You know, maybe they don't even live in the same state. I'm going walking on Wednesday at 5 o'clock, you go walking too, and then we can talk about it, whatever. Just be accountable to someone else, because and then you can support each other's goals. Be a friend, go online and be accountable, or maybe get a health coach. Just saying. And use visualization. We can picture changing our habit, see ourselves overcoming urges and avoiding triggers. What will our life look like when we're done? You can picture yourself and really get that in your mind. What difference will this make in my life? And see yourself as that person. Or you can create a vision board. Put a vision board in your office or wherever you spend the most time, so that you're constantly being reminded of what your goal is and how you're going to feel when you get there. Maybe there might even be some hints on your vision board of how you're going to get there. But put it somewhere that you're going to see it every day and let it guide you. And then we want to fight that urge to splurge. We're going to have urges. It's easier said than done. But remember, urges are temporary. They usually last a minute or two. Power through it. Really, you just have to power through it until the urge goes away. Some urges we can substitute. So for example, if you're having a sugar craving like this guy down in the right-hand corner, you could have a piece of fruit, and that will truly help. Craving a cigarette, you could do some deep breathing. Want to be lazy? That one you're going to have to force yourself to get off your butt and get out and do some walking, okay? Fight the urge and power through it. And call your support buddy. That might help too. And remember, this isn't someone else. This is you. You were this person before you had this habit. So you don't have to compare yourself to someone else, or you don't have to strive to be what someone else is. You just want to return to who you are, who you were before you had the habit, and who you will be. So that's yourself, but your best self. We didn't have these habits all of our life. We didn't need to quit smoking before we started smoking. And we don't need to quit smoking. We need to return to being a non-smoker. We don't need to transform into a healthy person. We need to return to being healthy. So again, this is you before the habit, and it's your best self. And remember to give yourself time. How much time? How long does it take to change a habit? We've heard 21 days or 1 month. It could take longer, or it could take shorter. It depends really on the habit and how ingrained that habit is in your brain. At the end of the day, though, really, how long it takes to change the habit doesn't really matter that much. Whether it takes 30 days or 300 days, we have to put in the work either way, and the end result is still the end result. So the only way that you're going to get to day 300 is to start at day 1. So on that 300th day or 30th day or whatever it is, it's not going to matter how long it took, okay? And cut yourself some slack. Go easy on yourself. We're going to have setbacks. That's okay, as long as the setback doesn't become the pattern. When you have a setback, recognize it. Don't beat yourself up about it, and get back up on that horse. You're going to strategize it, and you're going to crush it. So failure and guilt can be obstacles, but they can be helpful if we learn from them and we don't repeat them. So learn and plan. We don't need to be perfect, but we do need to be consistent. And remember that a habit is a habit. A good habit can be just as addictive as a bad one. You've heard runners who have said that they get a high from running, and that high is addictive. So that's a good habit, right? I think we'd all agree that running is a much better habit than eating sugar. Not that I'm going to start running, no, but there are other good habits that I can put in place that will be as addictive, hopefully, as eating sugar. So remember that that good habit will serve you. And finally, as always, keep calm and do your best. Again, you want to give yourself as much latitude as you'd give your best friend. We're our worst critics and our worst enemies. So keep calm, do your best, and you will get there. So that's it for our change in habits. And now I'm going to go to some questions that came through. Any ideas for non-food reward? Yes. Well, something if you set like little mini goals, you could treat yourself to a new dress or some earrings, something that you've been wanting for a while, and you can make that your reward. A more immediate non-food reward would be go for a walk in a place that you've been really wanting to go, or read a book that you've wanted to read, or see a movie that you've wanted to watch. Anything that really is something that's going to make you happy, it could be a good non-food reward. The question is, in addition to putting your running shoes by the door, what other incentives can you suggest to make us feel exercise is fun and rewarding? How about buying a nice, shiny new bike? Or, incentives, buy some new running clothes or workout clothes, something that's going to make you feel happy when you put them on. And again, get that accountability buddy, and their encouragement is also going to give you incentive. So the question is, future nutrition to support chemo and recovery. Will this come up in the future? That's a good question, and I can certainly make that one of our next, not the next seminar, but one of our next seminars. Thank you for that. I'm putting that aside. And the next question is how to kill the desire for sweets. Well, again, that's a hard one, because it works on those feelings. That rush you get from the sugar is very hard to combat. But if you have a craving, here's something I'm starting. I've discovered raisins. Now, raisins have never been high on my list because they're full of sugar, but they're not added sugar. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking, well, if they're full of sugar, but they're not added sugar, I'm going to get satisfaction from that raisin, but I'm not going to eat just the raisin. I bought myself some roasted, salted nuts, which I never do. I always eat raw nuts, no salt, and they're okay, but they're not as good as roasted salted nuts, especially when you balance that with the sweetness of the raisins. So to me, that is going to be a big treat, to have the roasted salted nuts with the, not so many raisins, but some, enough that I get that sweetness. So that's one thing. Have something that's sweet that isn't full of added sugar or doesn't have any added sugar. Have a piece of fruit. As we remember from our sugar seminar, we talked about all the sweet fruits that you can put into your diet that are going to help you, because you're wanting that sugar for more than just a psychological factor. It's also physiological, and you need to have fruit in your system, and the sweet fruits and vegetables that will help you with that. And sweet, not herbs, but spices, like we talked about, cinnamon and cardamom and nutmeg, ginger. things like that. Those are going to help you as well. So will that kill your desire for sweets? I don't know if it'll kill your desire, but it might help you get past the urge. And that's what you want to do, is get past that moment when you need it, and then you can move on. And I have some more questions. Could we plan on good habits? Oh no. We could plan in good habits to push out the bad ones. What do you think? Yes. I think that what that means is that putting the good habits in will replace, just like we talked about before, instead of trying to talk about what we don't want, we talk about what we do want. And that pushes the bad behavior or the bad habit or the bad whatever out of our life, and because we don't have room for it. So when we're eating lots of fruits and vegetables, for example, we don't really have room for the junk food because we're full. So it's the same with a habit. When you have the good habits, you don't have the room, the capacity for the bad. Not only that, one good habit, so we're focusing on one good habit, right? One good habit leads to other habits. So my no eating sugar is going to lead me to wanting to exercise more, just because you're in that mindset. So yes, push out the bad with the good. The good will push out the bad, and that will help. So that's it. Come back next week, and we will have some kind of healthy treat, yummy dish. I don't know if it's a treat or a dish or what. I haven't decided what we're making next week, but it'll be something that'll help you with a habit. Okay? So I'll see you next week, same time, same place, and you should have that link already if you registered, and the recipe will be coming to you as well if you registered. If you haven't registered, register for it so you can get that recipe for whatever it is that we're making, and then I'll also send out a reminder as well. Okay? So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.